Hey guys, I'm Sebastian. I'm going to show you 3 of my favorite exercise modifications for lower back pain today, mainly coming in the form of modifying the deadlift. And so many of you will probably have lower back pain with deadlifting throughout at some point if you're very active. There's no need for this. As we go through these modifications here, the first thing to note is I'll scale these a little bit of what's the quote-unquote safest for somebody who has current low back issues. And so the kettlebell from a block is probably the safest. And this is the teaching tool that we use for most people. Even on day one, if they're having some acute low back pain, we can still get them to pick up something like this weight from an elevated platform. I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about in a moment. The trap bar is the second safest, mainly because it helps the weight stay underneath your center of gravity versus in front. The barbell here, which is the dowel in this case, is an anterior load, is a forward load. And so a lot of times it will float in front of the spine. And so if I had a little dot here, right where my shirt and pants meet, right there, that is the area of interest of where the torque is created on the spine. This right here, if we talk about right here, this is the amount of distance or the lever arm, like jacking a tire up, that is created when the bar is up here. So this is basically the distance, and this is the distance right there if you make a little L. Okay? In regards to this, it's right below me. With this, it's also right below that point as well. And so that's why it's a little safer in the beginning to start people with deadlifting or a hip hinging pattern with something that's a little bit more center of mass for them. So the first suggestion is just do something that works well for you, okay? If you're a barbell athlete, it's a different story, and you might have to go on elevated blocks for a little bit of time or do pin pulls. So I'm going to go over application of these now, okay? And again, do them with me if you can. Probably the easiest thing to think of is we call this external cueing, and so this might be too much for this video, but I'm going to take the gamble, and it's good information. External cueing comes down to what your body is doing to the surrounding environment. It's not what your knees are doing. So I don't want you to push your knees out, and I don't want you to think about what your lats are doing. I want you to think about what your lats and your knees or your feet are doing to the surrounding environment. And so the easiest thing to do in this case is tension from the feet and tension from the hands. And so the way we can do this here is if you go into a little bit of a baseball position here, and you kind of make your feet sticky on the floor, all right? They call this rooting. You're rooting into the floor. Some people take a cue where you spread the floor, like there's a seam in the middle of the floor. I want you to rip the seam in half. That's one suggestion. A better one is actually turning the floor, like you're turning the earth to rip the seam in half. A lot of times this will get your butt cheeks working, which is the primary mover when we're doing something like a hip hinging pattern, because it is called a hip hinge. It's not called a back hinge. This is a hip hinging movement. And so we're going to spread the floor, pull ourselves down to the kettlebell, bend the kettlebell, or imagine those oranges under your armpits. Try to crush the oranges like making orange juice on a hot day, and just stand tall. Okay? You want to keep tension through the floor and through the oranges at all times. And so it's easiest just to think about one area of tension first. I would start with the feet, work on doing up and down movement with or without weight with floor tension through the feet, and then do the oranges one. And once you kind of get the hang of that, start progressing. Add some weight. Do it quicker. But it's easier to focus on one thing than multiple suggestions at one time. So obviously when it comes to deadlifting with back pain, you don't want to see this dumping dog type of position. And usually I'll show people hinging backwards, pushing the drawer shut with their butt when they're doing the deadlift as well. Now, at some point, someone's going to say, well, you shouldn't have your mid-back flat like that with deadlifting. Right, it decreases the moment arm if you round the upper back, and that does happen with heavy loads with power lifters, but that's not what we're talking about right now. This is for general physical fitness we're talking with today. That is a sport-specific conversation. The next thing, we're talking about deadlifting with a trap bar. So with the trap bar, same thing, spread or turn the floor. In this case, I want you to white knuckle the bar, just crush it, and stand tall. This one's pretty seamless. Most people don't have any problem with this one whatsoever. This one you have to coach a little bit more, but this one's a little bit more for everyday life because people aren't going to pick up sleds and stuff like that. For deadlifting with a barbell, the change of the suggestion would be the block. Okay, many of you will probably say, I don't have blocks. Well, you have rigs. Most of you will have rigs in a gym, and you can change the height of where the bar is sitting at down to this position, which is called a pin pull. And so the floor tension stays the same. Turn the floor. In this case, we're going to crush the oranges again and slide it up and down the body. Now, if this pin was here, it'd save me from going much lower than the knees. There's a safety range of about 1 inch below and above the knees, which is a nice slot where most people still get a lot of benefit with their hip hinge and power development and strengthen the hips versus going lower, all right? The barbell, or the Olympic plate was not a divine creation. It was not a perfect shape for everybody throughout the rest of the time. It just happened to be that height. So change the environment a little bit here, okay? You'll see that the block is maybe a little bit even too low for me. So I might have to get a second block. However, this is the thing. If you're trying to keep the hip hinging movement in, if you want to load the hips, deadlifting, you don't want to go to something like barbell hip thrusters, these are ways you can do it. And you can get heavy with it. But what will happen is if you start getting your spine involved in the hip hinging pattern, you will end up having some pain, okay? It's your choice. So the cost to benefit ratio going lower is more risk than I'm willing to take personally because I'm not in a barbell sport, okay? So if you like what you see, please subscribe to the channel. We have a little button in the corner somewhere. It's red, I think, and it'll subscribe to the channel. There's a search bar where you can look for literally everything that you want to in the body. You know, shoulder pain, carpal tunnel, ulnar nerve, plantar fasciitis. It's all in there. And basically, too, this video series of low back exercises is part of a series. And so you might be suggested another. Please watch it. And there's multiple videos of, you'll see, why does he keep having my 3 favorite exercises? I know, it's a joke. I just like them all. So you have to cue them differently, and it's based upon the application you see. So the last thing is, I have a book, link in the description below. It's free. Just pay the shipping is all I ask of you. So pay the shipping. It'll supply a roadmap so you guys can figure out what to do next. Most people do not know what to do next. All these exercises and modifications are cool if you want to modify forever. I don't. I bet you don't either. So get the book. It'll supply a nice roadmap of what to do next. And if you want to work with us, the locally world-famous chiropractors in Costa Mesa, we can do it virtually or in person. As you can see, with this stuff, we don't need to be with you to make you feel better. All we have to do is make the right suggestions, cue the right movements, and get your body to become better, I guess. Anyways, we can help you. So in person's cool too. So we'll talk to you soon. See you next time.